Hello and welcome to Sue Rogers Unedited. And today I have my very first guest. We are unedited, no cuts, talking about anything and everything. Jess, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience? Just a little bit of background info.
Okay, well, I'm Jessica Figueroa. I have 4 kids, a grandbaby, and I've known Sue for quite some time. We used to do some dance fitness back in the day, so I have that. And now my baby is 15, and so I just opened up my own beauty business. So kind of doing that, and still in the fitness world too.
Awesome. I don't know if I knew about the beauty business, or how long have you had a grandbaby?
He's gonna be 2.5. Yeah. So our
Oh my
oldest and
goodness.
son-in-law, they had a baby, a COVID baby. That's what I call him. And yeah, he's a cutie pie. Yeah.
Awesome. I literally was just telling my daughter, I was like, yeah, my podcast, I'm having my first guest, and it's one of my former Zumba friends.
Yeah.
Oh, good times with all of that.
Mhm.
And then fitness, what else? What are you doing still?
So Pilates, I ended up going and getting trained through Reformer Mat and did that whole thing, and was going to open a studio, but now I'm just teaching and focusing on my beauty business. It's hard to do 2 things at once, right? So
Yep, 100%.
yeah.
Awesome. So we are just gonna start diving right in because Jessica, we were talking about after I did the episode on parenting teens, and she and I kind of messaged, and I was like, you should come be a guest. We could probably talk about a lot of stuff. So you kind of mentioned wanting to talk about trauma, abuse, and healing. So go for it. Dive right in, whatever you are ready and comfortable to share. A little bit about what we were just talking about too, wanting to open up and share with people.
Oh, so that would be for my personal trauma, growing up, being sexually abused, physically abused, mentally abused. So just kind of wanted to share, um, as I am going through my healing journey, because we had something happen that kind of triggered it. There was no sexual abuse happening here, but there was just something that triggered it, and so all this stuff came out. I'm obviously very protective over my children because of what I've been through. But just working on healing kind of that child within that never got that healing because I got married young. I inherited 2 kids, had 2 more kids. So I've been busy taking care of everyone else. And so this year has been for my own healing journey and just working on that. And I want to ultimately help others to heal, because I think a lot of people have stuff that they don't talk about, especially our generation. So
Yeah, we don't talk about stuff. I personally, going through stuff, did not talk about the hard stuff while I was in it. And then for me, the healing came from writing my book. And it was like,
yeah.
no, I'm putting this all out there. But for you, for healing, like what helped you heal? Like what kinds of things were you doing that helped you?
For me, I was finally open with my family about everything. And my husband, who I've been married to, we just had our 21st anniversary. There were things,
Congratulations.
thank you. There were things he didn't know. He had some suspicions or guesses. So just kind of opening up and getting that out, just it was like this weight. I'm 43, so I've bared this weight since I was 9, and that came off. And just talking with my kids about it, because I think because I never healed, it affected me as a mom at times too, right? We don't mean it to. We have
Right.
this idea of I'm going to be this kind of mom, but when you don't heal yourself, it's hard to be the mom that you want to be. So I talked with them, and then I started doing some yoga, and then I do the Pilates too, journaling, working on just manifesting more positive energy and really letting go that I'm not enough feeling, and feeling that I am good enough for good things in my life. And I think that's really helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what you said too about our generation, because yeah, so I turn 42 tomorrow. So we definitely are the same
Yeah.
generation, 100%.
Yeah.
and is that what we were taught? Like, were we taught by our parents? Like, no, you keep that stuff hidden. You don't talk about it. Like, it's private stuff.
Yeah.
Why? Like, that's not helpful to anyone, including us. Like, why? I'm curious as to why that was the thought. And maybe it stems from how they were raised too, but I don't know about you, but I found that the more people that I saw that were sharing their hard times and how they overcame them, whether it was books or podcasts or actually seeing speakers live in person, it was eye-opening to me to see that these people were being real and honest and truthful with the shit that they went through.
Yeah.
And because they were open about it, were able to overcome it. And right, like you're going through the journey too, like what, same here, like when I was finally able to openly talk about it. And at first I was only comfortable talking with things that were really going on with a very small, close circle. But then you hear from other people that they're like, everyone's got effed up stuff.
Yeah.
Every single, like if you try to tell me you think someone out there is perfect, they are not.
Right.
We all somewhere have some really messed up stuff. And the more we share it, I feel like the more healing comes from the sharing.
Yeah. I think because we just find that we're not alone. And so, yeah, I had some private clients. I was doing Pilates here, and I'm very open. And the minute that I opened up, they were like, oh my gosh, me too, or this happened to me. And you create this bond, right? One, and a trust. And then from there, they start feeling better. They are like, wow, that just that release. I've never told anybody. I don't know why I told you. I'm like, it's because I get it. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. And now we can work through and not just help our health physically, but even mentally and emotionally, our emotional health. So important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so crazy because I feel like, yeah, the minute I say one thing, then it's like this waterfall of people are totally open to talk about things that, and not things that I would repeat. Like, we're here because you were like, I'm ready to share. Like, if somebody tells me their story, it is not for me to share. I will share my own story and my perspective of things. But other like people's stories are theirs. But when we share them, I'm telling you, that's where the most amazing things I think I've seen happen in my life in the last 6 years is from seeing people who are open to sharing what they've been through and then starting to really, really share what I've been through too.
Yeah, it helps. And then as far as children, I know you wanted to talk about that a little bit, teenagers. So ask away. I'm on my 4th teenager. So.
And you said the youngest is 15?
15. Yeah, she just turned 15 in March. Yeah.
How old's the oldest?
So I go 27. See if I can get this right. 27, 24. And then my 2 girls that I had are just turned 20 and 15. Yeah. So
you've been
I know
teens to early adult years for quite a while now.
Yeah.
What's like the youngest, because my youngest is 14. I've just had the 2, 18 and 14 is where I'm at in this journey. What's like, from your perspective of having the older ones too, what would be like one of the, I don't know, best advice or biggest takeaway that you could share with moms that are like just getting into the teens on how to get through and like relationship wise, like, because we all hope that we have relationships with our kids as they become adults and they still want to hang out with us.
So I could say this. Sometimes it like 4 kids, 4 different personalities, 4 different ways, right, of how we address things.
Yeah.
But I would say at the end of the day, you just have to do your best. You be loving, start with love. And sometimes it is so hard, and patience is so hard. And I'm Latin, so I'm not born with a ton of patience, I swear. So that's why I'm like, it's a little different. But that's what they need. And you can do everything right and things may still go wrong. So just kind of understanding that, but be there anyway, be patient, be loving, try not to be harsh. I know like the older kids, we were probably a little bit more strict, a little bit more tough. And then we learned over the years, because we were young parents, right? So we learned over the years, okay, we can soften up a little bit. But at the end of the day, they still all went through their things. So just letting them know that you are a safe base is probably number one. And it's hard to get them to talk. They're like bolts, right? So also I find when I take interest in things that they like. Like my daughter's music is not my first choice. It's not bad music, it's just not my jam, right? But taking interest into the music that she likes, and she's a little bit more edgy and alternative, and I'm like, okay, you know, but taking interest in that lets her open up more with me, and then we're able to bond a little bit more, because it's not about what I want to do, it's about her. And then I will say age 19, been there 3 times already, the toughest, because they're just transitioning from, I'm not a teenager, but I'm still like a teenage adult. That's what I have found. 19 is a hard age. They're really trying to figure out who they are. And so sometimes that requires a little bit more patience. So when you get to 19, or when it's kind of around the corner, get ready.
Oh boy, 19. And is that like they were out of high school, 19? First year out of high school? I'm coming up on that.
It's different. It's like a shift in the attitude a little bit. And it depends on the kid too, you know, but I've noticed with our older 3, that was kind of like that age. And then after 19, it like evens out. Did you have a boy and you have a what?
My son and my daughter.
Son and daughter. Okay.
One of each. But like things have been a little different around here for us too, because fall of 2020 happened and I was home and I watched my kids do distance learning. It did not work for either one of them. So I pulled them out and I personally created my own private homeschool so I could homeschool my kids. And we've been doing that up until my son just is sneaking in to do just online public school so he can play sports and finish his senior year with some of his friends that he started regular public high school with. And then my daughter, she's actually going to go back to regular full-time school next year because she's like, Mom, I love you, but we're going to kill each other once Cole's not here. And I'm like, you're right. You should probably go back. I did. So the last like 3 years, we've been with each other the whole time. And so I've really been able to, it was actually, I feel like a really big blessing because we've been with each other constantly for the last 3 years, they tell me anything and everything. My son's been working since he turned 16. So like he's technically doing online school through the school system, but he works Monday through Friday. So yeah, I'm curious to see what'll happen next year because he doesn't have a full plan. He would like to go play volleyball, but the cost of college is ridiculous. So we're trying to figure out what to do. And then, yeah, my daughter's going to go back to regular school next year. So I'm like, oh, my house is going to be empty again, like it used to be during the daytime. So I think next year will be a different transition for those 2 reasons. I'm like, oh, I'm curious to see how it's going to go. But I think because life was different for us for the last 3 years while they were like, you know, the ages that they are, the lines of communication have been really solid. And I hope they continue.
And I think that that's important. So before because I went to school to be an esthetician like 8 years ago, and we were in a car accident. So I had to kind of like retire a little bit because I had to have a surgery. So anyway, I ended up back in the real estate field, which is something I've done for a long time, in and out. And then I was working a full-time job in that industry. And that's what I was telling my husband. I'm like, we have one more kid, you know, and I could see the difference of working full-time and not being around for her because we've been homeschooling her since she was in 2nd grade. She deals with a lot of anxiety and gets panic attacks and different things like that. And so we do a charter. And so we've been doing that forever. And I'm like, I just can't, now that her sister's older and moved out, I can't have her home by herself. You know? And then of course, COVID and all that. But so for us, it was also a move for that. So falling back on my license, opening up my beauty business, has allowed me to be here for her. And I already can see a difference in our relationship. We're closer. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I
right.
mean, and that's priceless, right? I was like, I will eat
100%.
rice and beans and be home with her if that's what I need to do. Yeah.
100%, right? Because we're only like, the idea is that we are only responsible, or we only have them. Like, the idea really is we only have them for a short amount of time, and then they're going to go out into the world and hopefully do really cool, amazing things. And right, the saying, the days are long but the years are short,
Yeah.
with your kids, is 100% true. And right before COVID stuff went down, I had literally been thinking, like, we were so busy and we were never home and we all hardly ever saw each other because we were doing all the
Yeah.
things we thought we had to do. And I was getting nervous, like, oh my gosh, I only have a few more years left with my kids and then they're gonna be gone, potentially. That's the plan. And I was like, I was getting worried that I was gonna miss time with our family unit before it was all expired.
Yeah.
And so the last 3 years, I'm like, oh, I'm really, really grateful for that time and having that time back. And like, the homeschooling option, I never thought I would have done it. And then I did it and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing and a really cool option if you're able to do it. And we we could probably go into a conversation on that for a whole
We
nother
could do a
episode.
whole nother podcast on homeschool.
Yeah. Because it's not what you think it is.
Right.
It works around your life as long as you're still
Right.
getting everything done, and just the time to really be invested in your kid while you have them, so that when they're not with you anymore,
Yeah.
they hopefully have the confidence knowing that, oh yeah, my parents believed in me. I got this done. I got my back.
Yeah. There's such a taboo. And I used to be one of those ladies like, I am not homeschooling.
That
Heck
was me.
no. Like mama needs her time. Like they go to school, I have my time. You know, I
Yeah.
go to the gym, do clean the house, whatever. But I remember my now 20-year-old, she was going to middle school. She was in 7th grade and she started getting sexually harassed. And so then we go into that whole abuse thing, right? They did
Yeah.
nothing. Excuse me, they did nothing. And so I was like, forget this. And she's like, mommy, just homeschool me. And I was like, God, homeschool. But I'm like, okay, let me look into it. And then my youngest one, you know, she had the anxiety and it was, you know, I would have to walk away while she's crying at school.
Oh,
It was just heartbreaking. And I would stay as long as I could. And they're like, you gotta go. She'll be fine once you go. So there was just this heartstring pull.
yeah.
And so I was like, okay, fine. So I had some friends that had their kids at a local charter here. And so I enrolled them, put them in. And so we've done it since, you know, my 20-year-old graduated through it. But a lot of people say, oh, she's just home. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't do. I'm like, I think we're more busy.
Yeah.
And she gets to hang out with people her age, you know, she does dance and she has her friends, but then she gets to associate with older people too. So she gets that well-rounded, like
Yeah.
she can be around adults and have a conversation. She can be around her age, younger ones, kind of be a mentor to them. So I think it's not so taboo anymore, right?
Yeah. And even if
I
it
think that's the
is,
right word.
I actually had, I'm going to call out somebody right now. I have multiple aunts, so I can just say I have an aunt that when my mom said that we were still homeschooling, they were like, what? Well, what about socialization? And da 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 da. And I'm like, do you think we live in a hole in the ground and they never go out and see sunshine? Like, you
Yeah.
socialize with your family.
Yeah.
Like, both of my kids have played travel sports the entire time.
Yeah.
We go to church, like we do all these other, like, you socialize anytime you're talking to another
Right.
person. So
Right.
that stigma is still around, and it's hilarious because I'm like, what do you think? What do you think homeschool really is like? And once my kids realize too, like, oh, all of this time we spent at school and it takes us an hour a day maximum,
Mhm.
maybe, to get all our assignments done. They both were like, no, I don't really want to go back. But now my daughter's like, no, I want to go back and hang out with my friends. And because
Yeah.
she missed all of basically 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And so she's gonna go back for 10th, 11th, 12th, and just go get the experience. And if she decides she wants back out of it, we'll take her back out. It's no
Yeah.
big deal.
That's what we did. My daughter, so I think because I went back to work full time. And then because I had to, right? And so I did that. So she went, I want to say 7th grade, no,
Mhm.
6th grade. I think she went back for 6th grade. I think I have this right, 6th or 7th, unless I call her in here. I'm probably getting this wrong, but somewhere around 6th or 7th grade, we put her back in traditional school. She went with a friend. So nervous, ended up being really good for her. I think she does better in-person learning.
Mhm.
But then COVID happened. So I think it was 6th grade she did, and then she went back for 7th. COVID hit,
Uh-huh.
pulled her out because they didn't know what the heck was happening. And I was like, well, I don't want you to miss on education. So if we homeschool you, then at least we know, like, we can keep you on track. So
Yeah.
that's what we did. And then we've talked to her. Do you want to go back? There's parts of her that does, I think, to hang out with her friends. But I'm
Yeah.
like, you can go to school for 5 days a week, all day long, come home, do all that homework, or you could bust it out a couple hours a day, get it done. And I'm really big on work really hard Monday through Thursday, and then Friday's play day.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing this whole time too. And it
I was like, you
totally
want to go to the
is.
mall? She likes to go get a Dutch or a Starbucks or whatever. Then
Yeah.
we go do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of works. Heads up for her, because I looked into this too. Junior and senior year, you can do work experience. So you only go to school for your 4 core classes, and then you leave and just have to work a minimum of 10 hours a week.
Nice. And
Yeah.
then I know she'll want to do that. And then you probably have the same. I know she'll take some classes at the junior college too. So then she'll get 2 birds, 1 stone. That's what I talk.
Yeah, so you only have to be 13 and be dual enrolled. Both of my kids have like 9 units of college credit already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our teacher that we report to, she said if she did that, she took even just taking a couple of classes at the college, that she could even graduate early if she wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many other avenues that unless you hear about it from somebody else or look into it for yourself, like they don't tell you this.
Yeah.
I only know about the whole JC stuff from teaching there.
I was
Like,
like,
what?
I wish I would have had that option when I was younger, because like I said, I came from an abusive home. So I left at 17. It would have been nice to graduate early and get out sooner,
Oh yeah.
but
Right.
yeah,
Those
so I'm
options,
glad that, huh?
I was gonna say those options were there back then for us too. You just had to know about them.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Did you say you left home at 17?
Yeah, I graduated and then I moved out at 17. Yeah.
Where did you move to? Like, what were you doing?
I just got a roommate, got a job. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So my parents are split, and my dad was leaving the country because I left my mom's house is where all the abuse was. And then my dad was leaving the country. And so I kind of was like misplaced a little bit. And so I
Yeah.
had a friend, an older friend, and I was able to pay some rent and work and get out.
Wow.
Yeah. Long time ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mhm.
Life journeys and where they take us.
Mhm.
Man.
Made me
Just
strong. I'm strong.
I like it explains how like it explains you for as long as I've known you now. I'm like, oh God, that all makes sense.
Yeah. I'm resilient, and that's for sure.
Yeah, right. A lot of people are resilient because they have to be. But then, right, like what you've been through, your journey, things you've gone through, and now being able to share them is going to help someone else. And maybe they won't have to be as resilient because they can overcome things faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I have so many things to say. I probably should write a book, right? I should probably.
You probably should. And that's not as hard as you think either. Like the goal is if you were to sit down and write like 800 words a day, every day for 8 weeks, you would have enough words for a book.
Wow. Okay.
That's how mine kind of came about. I found that formula and I was like, oh, okay, if I have that goal in mind, it didn't take me 8 weeks. It took me longer than that. But I knew the goal was if I at least sat down a couple days a week and like you literally don't have to know the chapters. You don't have to know any of the organization. You literally just sit down and dump all your thoughts out on paper, dump a bunch of words out, and then you go back and organize it later.
Nice.
Yeah.
Food for thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind, because you probably should write everything down. And then the other thing I was told too is, okay, once you have this book, you now have this like history of you and a snapshot that will be around for your kids, your grandkids. They're like, oh, what about great grandmas too? Like, oh, you can go read about her in her book.
Yeah.
But right, like it's just another avenue of, and that's the other thing too, is like, yeah, we can talk to each other. This podcast can go out there. And like, if you were to sit down and try to talk with people one-on-one to reach as many people as possible, it would take you forever. You put it in a podcast format, you put it in a book format, and it can go out to a much broader reach, so that more people potentially could be helped by it.
Yeah, I like that. That technology, right?
Yeah, right. This podcast here. I feel like I'm gonna have to make a note too, and have you back at a future time, because I feel like we're just scratching the surface on some topics, more homeschooling topics, and even like diving deeper into more of what you went through on a deeper level, if our audience and you are wanting to expand more on it.
Okay, you let me know. I say I'm an open book. I've never had problems sharing before. What I went through at like a 9-10 years old is like new to everybody, right? Because it's not the history that they know. Right. I had sexual abuse when I was 1.5. And so my story starts there and moves forward.
Yeah.
But so I'm open. But like I said, this is a new opening that I have been putting out there. And so whoever wants to hear it, if I can help one person with my story, then that's success for me. Or a win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if your audience wants to hear it, then I'll share it.
Yep. There will be a part 2 to this one. Sure.
It'll be a podcast with wine and probably some cookies.
Yep, that can go too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were going to end this one, but for sure, Jessica will be back for part 2. Appreciate you guys who are listening in to the podcast. It is on YouTube now, as well as Spotify. And then you can always find me also on Instagram and Facebook and on the website, www.balancedaylife.com. You guys have a good one out there, and we'll see you soon. We got to stop all these at the same time.